Welcome back to another edition, a holiday edition of Smart Driving Cars. Thank you for spending time with us. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alain Kornhauser. Hi, Alain.
Hey, hi, Fred. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And for those celebrating it, Merry Christmas. At the top
Uh,
of the latest newsletter, in fact, you've got a comment. Even though we've had a very challenging year, we have much to be very thankful for. The glass, as you put it, is half full. Merry Christmas.
yes, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and so on. Yes, at least personally, things couldn't be better for me. So, yes, the glass is half full.
And one of the things that has made that glass half full, I think, has been Waymo, professionally speaking here, which is out with a posting. They're out with a
Okay,
posting headlined, Waymo significantly outperforms comparable human benchmarks over 7+ million miles of rider-only driving.
yes, that is a absolute good news and cheer and holiday present. I guess at least we've reported on it for some time that in fact they have been very successful on the safety end of what they've implemented, and kudos to them, and we congratulate them. They've certainly worked very hard with safety as their absolutely primary objective. And also, I think to be open and transparent and forthright, certainly as best as they possibly can. And so that is, and in fact, have delivered, as they're calling it, rider only, what we call driverless and truly driverless mobility, out there day in and day out. So yes, that is very accomplished and seeming and accomplished without smoke and mirrors, and accomplished with what anybody can now feel comfortable very safely.
They quote David Zuby in the report, the chief research officer of the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, saying the reports represent a good faith effort by Waymo to evaluate how the safety of its autonomous driving system compares with the safety of human driving. And Waymo was on to say the results are encouraging and represent one step in our, or he says, one step in our evolving understanding of autonomous driving safety.
And coming from David, that we, of course, hold an enormous amount of respect for at IIHS, who's been testing also these automated systems and driver assistance systems for some time. And that is a very significant statement by David. So kudos to Waymo for that.
And Waymo is saying that the Waymo driver demonstrated an 85% reduction or 6.8 times lower crash rate involving any injury from minor to severe and fatal cases, 0.41 incidents per million miles for the Waymo driver versus 2.78 for the human benchmark. That sounds
Yeah,
pretty impressive.
that sounds impressive, and it's built on a strong quantitative set of data that they've been collecting, and it was somewhat of a challenge for them to be able to come up with those quantitative measures, simply because what they're comparing themselves to as I like to say, drive ourselves or give ourselves a ride side, is a set of data about the safety of that system that is, oh my goodness, you look at the quality of those data compared to the quality of data that Waymo has been collecting for itself. It's almost like night and day. The data from Waymo is essentially pristine, simply because they sit and monitor absolutely every movement and to know essentially precisely what has happened to each vehicle, each car, giving each ride that it's given of the whatever it is, 700,000 rides or whatever the number is that they've given. Whereas when you're comparing it to how well we give ourselves a ride by driving our cars, my goodness, those data have many holes and caveats in them simply because the system isn't sitting there gathering data on what is actually happening to each one of us as we drive. If the incident happens to be substantial enough, there is a police report that's prepared of of at least some authenticity. But so much goes unreported, that, of course, to put that then in comparison with something in which absolutely everything is reported and recorded, or I should say recorded and, for the most part, reported, made available, ends up being a real challenge. But they did some very substantive work in doing that, making it so it's sort of an apples to apples comparison, and have come up with those safety measures.
And we're looking forward to seeing this operating in more markets. Proof of a market, as we've said before.
Right. So as we've said, this is a proof of technology. And the proof of technology is one that it works. It's able to give rides and give rides in a rider-only way, which we claim, or we've been stating, is the only way to be able to give rides, at least the types of rides that they're giving, an opportunity to do that affordably. And we'll talk a little bit more about that concept. But then again, in terms of really doing even more to show that it is safe, I guess, I've thrown out there the proposal that maybe the other comparison they should make in terms of their own safety and performance level in giving rides, it does exist, I believe, a data set of that is almost maybe as pristine as Waymo's data set, associated with at least one kind of vehicle that is out there allowing individuals to give themselves rides. And that is, of course, the data that's associated with that Tesla has for what has been the experience of Tesla vehicles instead of giving rides to individuals through automation, allowing vehicles to be driven and people to give themselves rides. And the intensity and the depth and the expanse of the data collection efforts of Tesla, which I believe exists, if that were made available and used in a comparison with the Waymo data, would be two data sets that have a much closer agreement in terms of its intensity, its detail, its substance, without all the caveats of the existing data that Tesla used to make the comparison that they've reported on recently. And we could see the extent to which Waymo is comparable, better than in giving rides than the Tesla data would report is safe. People have been safe in terms of giving themselves rides. Of course, Tesla has made claims of the data that they processed internally, saying that the people that drive Teslas are, because of the advanced driver assistance systems on Teslas, end up being substantially safer than the general population giving themselves ride, the same data that Waymo compares itself to. But they've had to make the same caveats and the same assumptions and modifications on the existing data to be able to carry out the comparison as Waymo has done. Well, but if you then took those two data sets, the Waymo data set and the Tesla data set, they wouldn't neither of them would need those modifications to be able to then do the comparison of those two. And so one would then see, my goodness, are these both great ways to improve mobility? On the one hand, Tesla's improving the safety of mobility of people who are giving themselves rides, and Waymo, the safety of mobility of a system that is out there giving rides to people. Two different processes of ending up people getting from A to B, one giving themselves rides and the other one getting rides. So it'd just be interesting. I threw it out there just for discussion's sake. I'm sure, people will, Tesla will probably say, hell no, and Waymo, you got to be crazy. But I'm just suggesting, I mean, as we've done so many times, when it comes to safety of these mobility systems, whether they're mobility systems that help us give ourselves rides better and safer, or it's systems that give us a ride safer or better, the folks working on those systems should be able to come together and collaborate on safety, work together on safety. What Waymo has learned in giving rides should be available to Tesla and GM and everybody else as to how they can improve the cars and the advanced driver assistance systems that they are trying to put in cars so that people can give themselves better, safer rides. And also whatever GM, Tesla, and all the rest of the auto industry is learning about advanced driver assistance systems, better enabling people to give themselves rides, better, safer enablement of giving themselves rides, should of course be available to Waymo and Cruise and Zoox and everybody else who's trying to build systems that give rides and do that safer. Both of those communities should all come together with the objective of improving safety.
Very, very worthwhile idea.
But, yeah, it would seem like we're nothing but goody two shoes on this one at Christmas, giving everybody Christmas presents on this. It is amazing how
well, we do know, I mean, in the airline industry, obviously, when something is wrong with an aircraft, everybody joins in and trying to solve the problem.
And fixes it, right? And says, oh, thank you for letting us learn what we didn't know. Now we're going to fix it. And it's with the Europeans as well as with the Boeings and the U.S. Aircraft manufacturers. It has to be that way with respect to safety. It has to be that way. Otherwise, we have the mess that we have. But it's half full.
Half full. Another interesting business belonging to Elon Musk is SpaceX, and the valuation has climbed to $180 billion, according to CNBC's reporting on it, based on an ongoing secondary share sale.
Yeah, I guess. One wonders whether or not a secondary share sale really establishes a proper value, but it seems as if that's what people who get access to secondary shares seem to be wanting to pay for those things. And I must admit, I bought a few of those. So, I guess that's what I think it's worth. So whatever. I was happy to also, even though I guess talk about something that really had no value because is certainly not liquid. Whatever.
But it's exciting, and what
it's exciting,
what they're doing. And we know you've been down there for the launches, and
I'm going to go to the next one too. And if if I can. And yeah, I don't know. It just seems to me they're doing some really good things.
The Verge, Andrew Hawkins reports on how May Mobility went fully driverless while avoiding the pitfalls of robo-taxis. And we've been pretty familiar with May
Yeah,
Mobility participating in the conferences.
yes, and we're thrilled, and in fact, to have someone else out there besides Waymo and Cruise out there really doing rider-only driverless mobility without a bunch of smoke and mirrors. It's absolutely great, and within their operational design domain. Again, a car that I buy in a showroom while the commercials on TV might suggest I can drive it down even riverbeds and great walls. I really can't. I can't drive it everywhere, and I shouldn't. And even though I can back it up at the edge of a cliff that looks like, oh my goodness, what the hell am I doing there in some of these commercials? They are pretty darn good within their operational design domain. And again, these systems that offer rides to people um, as overseen by a operational design domain and constrained within that operational design domain. These are the places you come from and to when. Um, that's really it's really the place in which they need to be able to prove that they can do it. And if those places are sufficiently expansive, such that enough people want to come from and go to in those places, that they can actually decide to use that means to get between those places as opposed to the host of other means that they have, then all of a sudden they win in the marketplace. Winning in the marketplace, as we've said, is sort of fundamental to this ride-only aspect. And the way you want to win in that marketplace is you want to win with scale, because the opportunity to be able to do it rider only in there is one in which, at scale, the opportunity to do it affordably then appears as with scale, and with higher scale, it's even more affordable. So that dynamic, that fundamental dynamic, as you get bigger, you get cheaper, which allows you to get bigger if you believe anything about the microeconomics. Then all of a sudden, boom, it goes by itself and becomes a substantial business. And to me, the delivering of mobility to an individual improves quality of life. And if it improves quality of life, it improves society. So all of a sudden, you get to be able to do that more affordably and build a sustainable business and help society. I mean, how many good things do you want to have happen to you? That's win-win-win all around. And and that's what this industry needs to get to. But to be able to begin to unlock that, first of all, you've got to achieve the safety piece. And once you can achieve the safety piece, then do that in the appropriate operational design domain, in which there are customers and customers that will appreciate the fact that you can do this affordably. Because if you then provide the high quality of service affordably, then those folks might say, "Hey, I want to consume that. That is my first choice in using on how I get from A to B." But if you end up being an also ran in the choice process of going from A to B, guess what? Nobody chooses you. You don't sell any lemonade at your lemonade stand. How long is that going to last? Washington's not going to come in there and bail you out. The state capital is not going to come in and bail you out. So, that's the business. That's the business
And
case.
part of the story was that they've been pretty successful in attracting investors in this difficult market.
Yeah, and again, uh, yes, I guess you need the investors to get started, okay? But at some point, you need customers to keep going. And guess what the investors are going to want? They're going to want the customers. And so, in the end, the important thing is to find the customers at scale who want what you're selling and appreciate it. And to do that, you better have high quality service and, affordable. Because how many people are willing to pay who knows what? I mean, sure, there are a couple, but
You should write a
I,
book about that, Alan.
it's coming, maybe.
It's
Oh my
coming
goodness.
soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Does it take a book? I mean, I mean, when you really look at it, some of the fundamentals, I guess, we're some of us we're getting together to talk about possibly responding to a federal request for proposal for mobility for rural communities, and throughout the idea that what we should just title our effort, title it, put an equation in the title. Oh my goodness, that would be good coming from academics, an equation in the title. Ooh, I mean, everybody has to pay attention to that. Maybe even the National Science Foundation would take advantage. Oh, if we had an equation. And the equation is affordable housing plus affordable mobility equals affordable living. Whoa, what a concept. I mean, if we look at New Jersey, a lot of New Jersey is really rural. There are a lot of small communities, especially trailer parks in rural New Jersey. Why are those trailer parks in rural New Jersey? Why? It's the cheapest land in New Jersey. It's the most affordable places that you can live in New Jersey. The only problem is, why are they affordable? Because they're in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing nearby. Land value approaches zero. So what do you need to be able to live in that affordable community? You got to have a car. Because New Jersey Transit, the statewide mobility entity, I mean, where it has service that's of quality, the value of the land is really high. And it's tough to do affordable housing in those areas. But if you had one of these systems that just has a computer that tells it what to do, and it just sits there all day long saying, computer, tell me what to do, tell me what to do. I'll go do it. I'll go do it. No problem. No problem. And go provide mobility to those folks. Whew. And you do that even in rural communities. There's enough scale to be able to do that simply because the system is so responsive to instruction. And in fact, has essentially no variable cost. Why? Because, the computer is a front end, the fixed investment, just like the wheels. You can do that then at scale affordably. Affordable housing plus affordable mobility equals. I mean,
I
I
can
don't
only
know.
think
It's
of
so
one other
damn
professor
obvious.
with such a well-known equation. There was one other professor at Princeton. His name slips my mind, who started with E something, but anyway.
Oh, I guess, E equals M. I don't have a square in this one. I just have a plus sign. I don't even have multiplications, whatever. Actually, he was at the Institute for Advanced Study and only spent a little bit of time at Princeton, but we certainly adopt him.
Yes, absolutely. So
Uh,
on the glass half full side of the newsletter, we've got Hyperloop One shutting down after about 10 years.
It's a great idea. I mean, but we have to go back to the 1880s or whatever in New York, and others had a great idea to do the same form of mobility, and others have also had great idea that I mean, in a tube with a thing in the tube that has little friction. If you put just a little pressure on one end, it's relative to the pressure on the other end. That force just applies over that area for all that, and thing ends up really moving. Oh, barrel of a gun. Oh my goodness, that's where all that stuff comes from.
Yeah, but we've all used it in making a deposit at the bank, right?
Well, yeah, and that used to provide mobility of documents for transactions in Macy's
Right.
on in Midtown Manhattan or 33rd Street, wherever Macy's is. And yeah, to get things from, let's say, the cash register to the back office and all sorts of, and we still have drive up windows or
Right.
things at banks that still do that, right? Yeah, it's a great idea. Uh, Again, if you have a point to point, maybe. If you have to do a network, and then if you look at the cost of the tubes and so on, and if there is a constant about if efficient mobility system is that you look at them that fundamentally requires a way, something that supports them, and then a vehicle, something that you or goods get in, those two things. And it's essentially every one of them that exists. What exists is that the way ends up being extremely inexpensive and low technology, and the vehicle ends up itself being the expensive element with a lot of technology packed into it. And so, you look at a car and it runs on a road, even just a desert road, or even just a Roman road, or whatever. And as the commercials would like to suggest, almost anywhere. Okay. But the vehicle itself is chock full of stuff like wheels and suspension systems and motors and steering things and lights and flashing and information and all that stuff. You look at the airplane. Whew. I mean, Bernoulli's law, it's a good thing, man. You get the wind to go faster over a wing than under the wing. Guess what? As the Wright brothers showed us 120 years ago on Kitty Hawk. Ooh, we can do this. Or a boat with water. Oh, my goodness, or a railroad choo-choo with two pieces of metal and some wooden ties between them and some gravel underneath for drainage, compared to what goes into a steam locomotive or a diesel locomotive. So, the constant of the fundamental constant of mobility is that the way is inexpensive and the vehicle is that's where you put your blood, sweat, and tears. And of course, that's the biggest opportunity of ride only or driverless vehicles. The opportunity that became obvious with the DARPA challenges was you don't have to build a bunch of guideways and so on to do safety. You just need to put an enormous amount of intelligence in a vehicle and let it run around the streets and so on that we've already built, and basically asked nothing of New Jersey DOT, federal DOT, or any other DOT except for what a normal driver would want, some paint so they can see where in the heck the lanes are, some signs that we can read as individuals, and somewhat of a smooth surface so that we're not jostled. That already exists out there in what, 7 million lane miles. Who knows what the heck exists out there in terms of roads at the operational design domain where cars can operate. There's no reason why, if you put by sufficient intelligence in the vehicle, as Waymo is showing, demonstrating very well, at least within a subset of of such a system does very well. Thank you.
Besides Hyperloop, Alan, also down the tubes, Bird, the electric scooter company, they filed for bankruptcy. I don't know that they're completely down the tubes, but they filed for bankruptcy. The Verge says shared micromobility, though, is still doing fine with other rideshare scooters and e-bike companies out there. You see them all over the
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, I guess we see them all over the place. I was walking around the UCLA campus, a couple of days ago in the neighborhood, their surrounding neighborhood, and there are a bunch of these things parked at every corner. I guess it was sort of the morning of, I guess most classes are not in operation, although we did have some meetings there. They seemed to be parked. Didn't see too many people riding them. So I guess, for short trips for young people, they're really great. Though I am very pleased that Princeton University, come the new year, is basically forbidding them on campus during the day. We're just, kids should be walking. I mean, it's really interesting at Princeton. Without taking any data, the observation might be that it seems to be that it's the student athletes that use these the most on campus, and you wonder, they're taking these things to the gym to go pump iron and become stronger athletes, and you wonder why in the hell they aren't running to the gym as opposed to scootering to the gym. And maybe they wouldn't have to pump as much iron to become even better athletes and easily beat Yale, Harvard, and all the rest of the NCAAs. Never mind. Just an observation.
The San Francisco Standard had a report on the hundreds of millions spent in the city to end traffic deaths, a Vision Zero initiative. But traffic fatalities on the city streets remain pretty much unchanged, according to the report from a decade ago. And you had an interesting remark or two.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame. And what they do, run crews out of town, and I guess I don't know where Waymo stands, whether or not they're running Waymo out of town. But here that you have these two entities that are trying to provide mobility. I mean, at least one would hope they're trying to provide mobility to improve quality of life of San Franciscans, and certainly to do it safer. Yet they're being run out of town. I mean, whatever.
And from the New York Times, you include the Best Metropolitan Diary of 2023, according to readers, a very clever, humorous submission.
Yeah, I just thought that we'd throw that one out there in terms of the the basic intelligence of a I guess coffee shop owner in the Wall Street area. When being asked, "Hey, you have all these Wall Street folks in there coming in for bagels and coffee and so on. Do you ever get any investment tips from them?" And basically, his response was, "Well, as I watch each of them try madly to push their way into the front door of this establishment where there's a big sign that says pull," suggests to me that maybe these folks aren't really folks that I want to get any investment advice from. So if you can't even read the sign, never mind.
Well, we want to remind everybody again that the new book is coming out soon. We don't have a precise date for you yet. The Real Case for Driverless Mobility, written by Alain and Michael Senna. We're really
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
Yeah, and again, it's focused on really doing a proof of market of this technology, and really trying to have folks realize what its fundamental opportunities are to improve society and be accepted in the marketplace. when one talks to transportation professionals, especially in the areas of where people are being given rides rather than getting rides and getting themselves a ride. We're so entrenched in this philosophy that somehow it has to be subsidized and it has to be supported by the public, and it can't possibly make it in the marketplace. That's the unfortunate burden of conventional systems, and at least from the perspective of Michael and my perspective, this is completely different simply because it has the opportunity to be really affordable and given enormously high quality rides, largely any time, largely any place, or in a big enough operational design domain that's spanned by time and space that's big enough to attract enough customers who fundamentally get value, and it being offered at such an affordable price that they're more than willing to pay, which is what our whole society is built on. So anyway, that's what we have.
Looking forward to it. Well, you can find us at smartdrivingcar.com, on Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google, Amazon, wherever you turn to for podcasts. My tech reports are at techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alain Kornhauser. Thank you for listening or watching. Merry Christmas. Please continue to stay safe.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas to everybody. And Fred and I will wrap up the year with some end of the year look back and look forward session next week.